Hi, I'm Andy Wood, and in this video I'm going to show you how I add drama to my black and white landscapes. Hey there, I'm Andy Wood, and before we get started I'd just like to invite you to head over to imagepunk.com and grab yourself some free presets and tutorials. And just to say that if you like this video, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Cheers. Right, let's get started. There's something about black and white landscapes that I just love. Rich blacks, bright whites and everything in between. But there's more to creating a great black and white image than simply converting a colour image to black and white. So here's how I process my landscapes to create black and white drama. So the first thing I do is head over to the basics panel and I switch to black and white. And as you can see, instantly we've gone from colour to black and white, and to be honest it's a perfectly acceptable image. But there's not a great deal of drama in it, and there's lots more that we could do with it. The first thing I like to do is even out the histogram. So this will vary image to image, but as you can see there in the highlights and whites area, it's dropping off quite considerably. I like to start with it pretty even as I can get it. You never get perfection here. So the way to do that is to play with these four settings: the highlights, the shadows, the whites and the blacks. So if you see what's happening as I pull up the highlights, we start to fill that area where there was a gap. So if we bring that right up, I don't know, somewhere around about there, it's pretty full. Somewhere about there. And with the shadows, you can see they're quite high. We can flatten that out a little bit, just having again a little play. So we'll somewhere like that. As I said, you won't get perfection. For the whites, if you hold down the option key on a Mac or Alt on a Windows PC, hold down the option key and tweak the whites. As you can see, the image goes black and some white patches appear. Just get it so that there's a few white patches on there. They're absolute white points. For the blacks, you can see the picture goes white and then you can bring back some black in there. So as you can see, the histogram is much more even, a little bit flatter, well spread from left to the right. So from the blacks and shadows to the whites and the highlights, it's pretty even, and that is a pretty good starting point. We can play a little bit with the exposure as well, just slightly, just bring it up if we want to, and for the contrast, let's bring that up a little bit and flatten the histogram even more. And look at that, we've got a pretty good even spread left to right. So that seems like a good starting point from my perspective. Now when you switch from colour to black and white, the HSL panel turned into a black and white adjustments panel, a mixer. Now what I should say is that this next bit is the same process that you should carry out for each of the key landscape masses. So sky, trees and foliage, mountains and water. So if your image, for example, has blue sky and blue water, it's a bit of a balancing act to get this right, because any adjustment you make in the sky will also affect the water and vice versa. So you have to play and trade one off against the other. But in this image, if you remember, it's green trees, blue sky and a browny coloured mountain. So we shouldn't have too much trouble with it. So the first thing, if I start with the sky, if I take the aqua slider all the way down, you can see there's a very slight adjustment in the sky there. If you watch the sky, just take the aqua down. Now I'll do the same for the blue, and as you can see, it just becomes so extreme there. The sky is almost black. So having taken it down, I can start to bring it back up again. So somewhere that I think is around about right. And I would say somewhere around about there. Now as you can see, we've got some lines appeared here, but don't worry about those, we'll deal with those in a minute or two. Now for the trees, we'll do the same, but we're going to use the green and the yellow sliders. So let's take the green right down. As you can see, it blackens off the trees pretty dramatically, and we start to bring back up, and I like to see a little bit of detail in there. Let's keep going, take it up. There, I think that looks pretty good. And the yellows, let's take that down, brings it, darkens it all again, all the foliage. But if we say somewhere around about maybe there, yeah, somewhere about -10 for this image. Varies image to image, remember. And now we'll do exactly the same thing, but with the orange and red for the mountains that we can see there. So we'll take the orange all the way down. See there's a slight change there on the shadows. I actually quite like it there. And if we take the red down and then start to bring it back up again, it's very subtle in this image. Somewhere around about there. Now the last two that we've not altered are the purple and the magenta. So we'll take the purple down. Very slight change there, not difficult to perceive. And the magenta, we will play with that. Somewhere around about there. So that's the black and white mix sorted, and next let's smooth out these lumps and bumps that we've managed to create. So to do that, we go to the detail and we take the colour slider all the way to the right, detail to the right, smoothness to the right, and you can see there that it's smoothed that out pretty well. Okay, so now the next thing that I like to do, a little bit of drama, always a bit of drama if you add a vignette in there. So if we take that down, if you go to the left, it's a dark vignette. If you go to the right, it's a white one. So we'll take that down, make a dark one, somewhere around about the -20, I think, on that one. Midpoint we'll take right down to the bottom to 0. We'll give it a little bit of roundness. I don't know, somewhere around about 20. A little bit more, somewhere around about there. And the highlights will lift up to the 80s, I think. Looking at that, that looks pretty good in itself. Now we could leave it pretty much as it is now. If we just look at the image side by side, it's quite a bit of drama in there, and I like that. I like that image a lot. But let's do a little bit more with it, shall we? We'll add in some radial filters. So up here above your basic panel, there's the Radial Filter tool. So if I click on that, it opens up a new panel for the filter. The first thing to do is to make sure that the invert is checked and that you're feathering at 100. That's in to switch the colour off, but you can leave it in if you wish. Now with the Radial Filter tool selected, head over to your image and just click anywhere. It doesn't matter where because you can move it. Just click and hold and drag, and as you can see, a circle or ellipse appears. just get it to roughly the size. What I'm going to do is bring out the highlight in a couple of areas on the mountain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it. I can squash it using the handles if I wish. Just pull out a little bit there. So if I pick that part there. Now in the adjustment panel for the filter, I will pull up the exposure, something like that, and shadows, I guess we can pull those up. I just want to bring it out and accentuate it a little bit in there, and the whites I think we will bring up as well, somewhere like that. And let's add a little bit of sharpness in, somewhere around about the, somewhere around about there. Now let me switch that off, switch that back on again. You can see its effect. There's a little circle there. I can always drag it and move it if I want to, for a more accurate position. Now if I right click this, I can duplicate it. So now I have two, and the second one I want to position there, and it's retained the same settings, and it actually doesn't look that bad like that. So I think I will settle for that. If I just close the panel, you can see there's a slider appears. If you just watch with that specific radial filter selected, I can just fine tune that specific filter. There's a little dot there, click on that, and that's the other one. And again, I can just fine tune that. And to switch off the filter, just click the tool again. And I think that looks pretty good. Now, you can put as many of these in, these radial filters in, as you wish. And if you create a preset for the settings for this image, it will also carry over the radial filters. So if you then use it on another image, that preset, you may, I almost certainly will, have to move those radial filters, or just click on them and hit the delete key and that will delete them. So we've got a pretty good dramatic image, but what I want to do now is finish it off. And the way I like to finish off is I use a split tone. So I have my own preferred settings, but you can have a play. I like to give it a kind of a silvery look. So if we go to the highlights and go to the hue, I generally use somewhere around about 130, and the saturation I like to set quite low at a 10. Balance I'll put at plus 25, and the hue for the shadows I like to boost right up 300, and 10 again for the saturation. And you can see the effect that has. Just give it a little bit of a tint, a bit of a silvery tint, but you may prefer that without or with, but that's my preference. Now what I would say is that, just to stress the fact that images all different, and different balances in there, different contrasts in there, so you have to play with the settings. The more you play with the settings, the faster you'll learn, and the more that you'll learn. So just keep playing with it. You can, if you want, go back, for example, and just play with the clarity a little bit. Just bring that down, Actually, that looks even better, doesn't it? If we bring the clarity down, up, sorry, it looks pretty good. And the hair's gone a little bit dark, but lots of drama in that one. And yeah, I like that. I think I would settle for that as an image. Let's just see, let's go back to the black and white and just have a look at that foliage. Just bring that up a little bit more, and the yellow's in the field, and yeah, look at that. I'm happy with that. So yeah, as I say, have a play and see what you can do. That's it. Cheers.